They made one mistake, one catastrophic, unforgivable mistake. And now the whole cover-up is unraveling. The DOJ just released Jeffrey Epstein's final surveillance footage, claiming that it proves what he did in that cell to himself. But eagle-eyed viewers caught something the feds never expected anyone to see. And it's right there on the screen, plain as day, and it changes everything. A full 60 seconds vanished from the footage. Foreign intelligence connections now confirmed, a client list that exists but will never see daylight. And now we know why Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for trafficking children to nobody. The evidence is so damning and so obvious that even the mainstream media can't ignore it. And what you're about to see will shake your faith in every institution. So brace yourself for what comes next. Just as the Epstein network operated in the shadows, there's another crisis happening in plain sight. Our bee populations are collapsing. Without bees, our natural food chain breaks down. No pollination means no crops, no food security, and no future. That's why Patriot Bee Best created an educational digest to spread awareness about this critical issue. For less than 17 cents a day, you can support both this show and American Bee Restoration. These aren't just environmental activists. They're American veterans laser focused on preserving both our bee population and our republic. Just like exposing the Epstein cover-up protects our children, protecting bees safeguards our food supply. Visit patriotbeebest.com to subscribe or to donate. You can join the hive and catch the buzz and help ensure America's agricultural independence. Because whether it's intelligence operations or ecosystem collapse, we cannot afford the warning signs. The link's in the description, patriotbeebest.com. So, you guys may have seen the DOJ's letter that was published over the weekend. Well, here's the footage. We posted this on our X account, and it is clear as day. The DOJ's Epstein prison video, which shows an editing menu on the screen until exactly 12 o'clock a.m. when it vanishes, and like clockwork, 1 full minute of footage is missing from 11 o'clock, 11:58 and 58 seconds to 12 o'clock. A whole minute. So where is the lost minute and what happened during that time? I'm going to pull it up full screen for you so you can see it. You can see the edit for yourself. It's clear as day. So now watch. Now you can't see the time code. I'll put the you can see the time code there on the screen. 11:58, 58, and then boom, it just jumps. I mean, I downloaded the footage for myself. I watched it. I saw it, and I saw the jump. I said, holy cow. They're going to go ahead and put out this video. And at the top of the screen, see that little gray box? It's an editing dialogue. Something that goes on the screen. I'm not sure why it's there. You know, is there a logical explanation for an entire minute missing? Now, the DOJ said that they had to enhance the video and they did some kind of special stuff to it. Maybe that's their excuse. But what could have happened in that minute of video? Anyone could have ran up those stairs and right into door 46. I believe that's the door that leads to Epstein's cell area. What happened there? What happened in that 1 minute of footage? We need some serious answers to that. Now, here's what's wild. Epstein was Israeli intelligence. Epstein met with CIA Director William Burns and Barack Obama's top lawyer, Catherine Rummler, over 12 times. It's been confirmed that Epstein was Mossad and CIA intelligence blackmailing elites and politicians for Israel. These are not my words. This is Jesse Waters saying it on Fox News. So it all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. Did you know that the Prime Minister of Israel was just in the United States? In fact, I got the talking schedule from the White House. He was just here. And then this happens? I mean, make no mistake. You get a telephone call. Hey, make sure, Mr. Trump, let's not let this intelligence program get out. Make sure we keep all the blackmail in place for all these people so we can continue to control them. Remember they said they were going to give us the list? I mean, they carted out conservative influencers holding binders and said, here it is, but there was nothing in there. It was all a photo op. It was basically, the whole thing was a freaking psyop. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, they all said, Pam Bondi said she had the list on her desk. But what? Now suddenly nothing? It's because this was an intelligence operation from the very beginning. And if they're going to go ahead and start prosecuting all these people, mark my words, it's on the left, it's on the right, they're all in on it. So they need to keep everyone in check. Thousands of hours of video from Epstein's estates, photographs of all these victims, but yet there's not one person that they can indict. Well, there's a reason. They want to keep the blackmail operation moving forward. Because if they've got those tapes, they can continue to keep all these politicians in line all over the world. Jesse Waters right here saying it was Mossad, that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad on Fox frickin' News.
Other than that, 4 years since billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. So why do we still know nothing about him? Well, we're finding out tonight some answers. The Wall Street Journal just got its hands on Jeffrey Epstein's private calendar, and it was a lot more suspicious than Brett Kavanaugh's. Epstein was meeting with the kind of people you'd think would steer clear of a convicted pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein was meeting with one of Barack Obama's top lawyers, Catherine Rumler. She met with Epstein dozens of times. Epstein even tried to set up Obama's lawyer to work for Bill Gates. How is Jeffrey Epstein a fixer between Obama's lawyer and Bill Gates? Epstein was also meeting with Joe Biden's CIA director. He wasn't CIA director at the time. He was Barack Obama's deputy secretary of state. William Burns was working for John Kerry at the State Department and meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile. And then Burns becomes CIA director. Today's director of the CIA went to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse where Epstein had sex with underage girls and, where he filmed other men having sex with underage girls. And William Burns went there and was then promoted to the director of the CIA. Now, I wonder if the future CIA director saw the portrait of Bill Clinton in blue dress hanging in Epstein's parlor room. A few years later, Epstein was arrested and then hung himself in a jail cell while security cameras just happened to not be working, and the replacement guards just happened to fall asleep. And 2 years later, Biden just happens to pick William Burns to run the CIA. So what are we supposed to think? It's never been more clear. Epstein was an intelligence asset. Not only was he working for the CIA, Israeli intelligence, maybe even Russia intelligence. So was the American government allowing an asset to traffic and molest teenage girls all over the world for intelligence?
Yep.
Were we allowing Epstein to commit crimes against children for blackmail material? Well, we asked the CIA director, William Burns, why were you meeting with a convicted pedophile at his disgusting townhouse? And the CIA director said this: the director did not know anything about him, other than that he was introduced as an expert in the financial services sector and offered general advice on transition to the private sector. They had no relationship. So Obama's State Department official couldn't have asked anybody else in the entire country for help with a job in finance? He could have called any CEO, any hedge fund manager, any banking director. But he meets with Jeffrey Epstein, a guy that doesn't even really have a real business, a guy that doesn't even have...
Okay, so that's Jesse Waters' take. Okay, check this out. This is from The Morning Show, and Truth Justice says this is why there are no Epstein lists in blackmail videos, because Epstein worked for Netanyahu and his Mossad intelligence agency, and they have all the files and videos on very powerful elites and politicians all around the world, including in America.
Called there of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Now, as part of our investigation, we spoke to Ari Ben-Mashani, who is a former Israeli spy. He said on the record unequivocally that Jeffrey Epstein was working for Israeli intelligence operations, the Mossad, and running a classic honey trap operation. That is, lure people inside, record their activities and learn about their peccadillos and use it to blackmail them. This is a former spy on the record in the new book, Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Interestingly, this person was also the handler of Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and ex-girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was said to have been one of the women who helped procure the underage girls for Epstein. She has denied that. But her father was Robert Maxwell, a media and press baron who owned the Mirror News Group in England and also the New York Daily News. He was a former Mossad agent. And according to my source, Ari Ben-Mashari, the business that Robert Maxwell had was turned over to Jeffrey Epstein almost in a switch before Robert Maxwell died in mysterious circumstances off the back of a boat in 1991.
Well, this is mind-boggling stuff.
Of the Jeffrey...
Yeah, mind-boggling indeed. Mysterious circumstances off the back of a boat. Christy Lay. The only thing that makes any sense now is that Epstein was Mossad and the U.S. had some shady agreement with Israel to hide the truth. Change my mind. I mean, I just played you two mainstream media clips that prove that point. She was quote tweeting Eric Doherty 23 hours ago. New internal Trump DOJ FBI memo concluded there is no evidence Jeffrey Epstein had a client list and was well, you could see some things you just can't say on YouTube, you know. The administration is supposedly to release a video showing nobody entered the area of the prison where Epstein died. Well, I just showed you the edit of the video that the DOJ released. Epstein was Mossad. Former Israeli intelligence officer Ari Ben-Manash said Epstein ran a Mossad honeypot operation after being recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. You just heard him say it. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad spy. And this is not the B, their article headline, DOJ posts full Epstein cell video as evidence. The video was sloppily edited. You can see the edit menu in the upper right corner at 12 o'clock. After 1 minute was cut from 1:59 to 12 o'clock. Dan, Cash, and Bondi are amateurs at corruption. Here we have Jesus Enrique Rosas' analysis of the cell block video released. Department of Justice and the FBI released the full footage of the only working camera at the special housing unit, the cell blocks where Jeffrey Epstein was that night. There's a lot of strange stuff to unpack here. This is quite a long video. Okay, so we're going to cut to the point where he talks about the one missing minute. So at 13:49, Epstein's seen alive for the last time.
Alive. I think it's fair, right? And we know that this is the last time that Jeffrey Epstein was seen alive because the timer marks 7:49 p.m. And according to the document, the full investigation of the FBI, that was the time that Jeffrey Epstein was seen alive one last time. And I'm going to just play this. Maybe we can play this in real time. You see two officers walking this inmate in orange. You see the only way that we can semi-confirm that this is Epstein is that, well, his hair was white. We know that his hair has always been white in all the pictures. We know that the guy was alive, or at least that's what we think. That was Jeffrey Epstein being led to his cell at 7:49 p.m. that night. The only other thing relevant that happened before that was this lady entering through gate 46. Remember that this is the only gate, the only way to go in and out of the SHU is through gate 46. And we're seeing right now an officer using the phone. You see a phone on the wall. That's the way that you communicate with the officers outside that can open this door. Yeah, this door can only be opened from the outside. All right, she leaves like a trash bin right there. She waits until the door is open in a minute. It's gonna be really quickly. Let's speed things up. Just for the record, remember, this is 7:46. You can always see the timer in the lower left corner. This is before Jeffrey Epstein was seen alive the last time.
Now let's go to the, what's this? Folder under the floor.
That someone who's gonna pick those bags is important. We move on. We continue. Now we are at 9:07 p.m. and one officer, what is he doing? Oh, he is given some kind of secret paper, or I don't know, schedule, or some kind of folder right below the door. They don't open the door. They just slide maybe an envelope. Maybe it's some kind of random paper. Maybe some kind of document that he needs for the shift. He goes to the door. He doesn't touch the phone because he's not going to request to open the door. Gets the folder and okay, no big deal. Now, what happens now at 9:11? Guy that looks like a maintenance. He doesn't look like an officer. Grabs the phone, asks for permission to get out. I guess that there's a camera. I guess that there has to be at least one camera working to see who requests to go out, right? You have to see if you're going to open the door from outside, who is...
Okay, let's go to the minute part. 1 minute missing.
Inside that part. Now, this is the thing. This is one. I think this is the greatest red flag of all this video. Of the 11 hours of this video, this is hands down one of the most concerning red flags. This video is not continuous. This video was spliced, was cut. And how do we know? Because there's 1 full minute missing from the footage that we were promised that will be a continuous footage, continuous video without interruption, without editing. How do we know? Keep an eye here on the timer. It says 11:58:50 p.m., right? And we go 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and we guess that we're going to see 11:59, right? That minute, so close to midnight. 5 seconds to go. 6, 7, 8, 9. Hey, what happened? What happened in there? We're here. I'm going to do that again. 11:58, 55 seconds p.m. You never get to 11:58, 59 seconds and you just jump. I'm going to zoom in case you miss it, because this is proof that this video was tampered with in one way or another. There you are. 11:58:58 jumps to straight to 12 a.m. At some point I thought, okay, maybe it's a glitch of the system. Maybe it shaves off 1 minute, but it's strange that it was not just 1 exact minute. It was 1 minute and 2 seconds. So that is strange in itself. And the other thing that's maybe the system, let's play devil's advocate here. Maybe the system splices the video itself when there's a change from one day to the other. That is a possibility. But then why does the frame, and by the frame I say, look at how the size and the orientation of, the frame is going to change. I'm going to rewind.
You see it. What happens? You see it punch in. It gets closer. Like, there's clearly a jump cut here.
Find this again, so you're gonna see how it jumps. 5, 4, 3. Now it's smaller. First was bigger, and now it's smaller. And eagle-eyed body language bodies would have noticed that in the upper right corner of this video, something appeared that hasn't appeared in any other point of the video so far. What is this? This absolutely looks like a menu of a video editing app. You see the usual, what looks like, the backwards. This looks like the fast forward. Will be like the two edges of two arrows with it looks like a menu or a menu of some kind. This looks like a pause button. All right. And it is odd, right? Because this should have why is there a menu of a video editing app or any app going inside this? And you know what is the worst part? The worst part of this, the most concerning part, I'm going to tell you what is the most concerning part. I lost my bearings because there's so much stuff here happening. I'm going to help you see that this was happening from 11:24 p.m. on the marker. I'm going to fast forward back and forth, and you see that at many times the menu of this video editing software was just popping up. 11:55 p.m., 11:24 p.m. was there, 11:45 p.m. was there, and then you know what is crazy? After it changes to the next day to 12 a.m., remember that there's 1 minute missing? The video editing app menu never appears again.
You tell me, guys.
Requesting.
You tell me what's going on here.
Because
it sounds to me
alive.
This thing was straight up edited. What happened in that missing 1 minute of footage? Anyone could have walked through in that 1 minute of footage. From that door 46 down into the cell block. Jeffrey Epstein jail CCTV erased by technical errors. So that's the other question I have. If the video was erased, how did we get this? They suddenly just recovered it? Or was there another camera that got erased? Here is a former mobster who was once in the same jail as Jeffrey Epstein claims there's no way Epstein could have done what he did, calling it physically impossible. He says the cell had nothing on the ceiling, and even basic tasks like using the bathroom were done under constant surveillance. Unless he was a magician, there's no way he pulled it off. If there's no client list, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? If there's no client list and Epstein was just a financier, why would he do anything to himself? The FBI was supposed to make a client list based on the totality of evidence collected. Them saying there's no list is them saying we didn't do our job. It took 6 months of them saying they will release it to now it doesn't exist at all. Full 60 seconds missing from the video. Everybody has noticed this. 22 hours ago, DOJ, FBI conclude Epstein had no client list, and what he did to himself. I didn't think it'd get any worse after the binders stunt. Who could ever forget that moment, right? Okay, so now we have a question that was brought up at the press conference today. Let's hear the White House official response.
Revealed no. Sure. Caroline. Okay, so.
And the voice you're hearing is Peter Doocy from Fox News, in the front row, asking the question.
Sure. Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis...
There's the pivot. There's the pivot. This is all to protect the blackmail operation and to keep those politicians in check. Unbelievable. Let's see if we have anything else. Let's see what Alex is saying about this.
I woke up this morning and turned my phone on, and there were hundreds of text messages saying, oh my God, the DOJ just put out a letter that I know you've all seen now, saying there is no Epstein client list, there never was any blackmail operation, Epstein killed himself, and the investigation's closed. So everybody wants to know what I think. Well, I know what's going on. And so I'll tell you. Trump had two ways to go with all of this. He could prosecute all of these incredibly prominent people, household names, or they could use the information to blackmail the deep state. I've done deep research, have a lot of contacts, and know Trump's MO. And he's not into kids, he's not into being peed on, and Russian hotels, all that was lies. We now know from the CIA and Brennan and the very crew running the Epstein operation. But the reason that you are seeing this deep sixth is because the CIA with the Mossad and MI6 was running Epstein, and it was an official U.S. government operation, multinational. And it was the family business going back to Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, and that's all on record. So if Trump was to actually prosecute this, it would bring down the CIA. And so that's why you've had Comey, who controlled the files over at the FBI with the CIA, but on that end of the DOJ, having his daughter do all the main cover-ups, not just with the Epstein and Maxwell case, but obviously P. Diddy and the rest of it. So this is the swamp winning. The question is Trump's DOJ actually using this to control the deep state? Or are they just so overwhelmed by it, they are tapping out? Because, let me explain logic here. And from all obvious inside sources, we're the ones that broke with the FBI whistleblowers, O'Boyle and others, Seraphin, all of this that was first unfolding, 5 months ago when they were supposed to, have this 14 terabytes. They'd sent it out to the FBI field offices for investigation. And Pam Bondi went on Fox a bunch of times. So did some U.S. attorneys from Jersey and said, oh yeah, we've seen it, hundreds of new victims and videos and all this horrible stuff, kids being raped. Hundreds of new victims were going to be releasing it. So you wouldn't say all that if you were planning to cover it up from the beginning. So something has changed along the way, and it all points towards this being used to blackmail the deep state. I'm not endorsing it.
I mean, he's trying to put a silver lining on this whole thing. Maybe that's true. Using it to blackmail the deep state, I don't know. All I know is there's a minute of footage missing. Anything could happen in that minute. And it was all to cover up this operation. So there's still a lot of questions. We're going to keep track of this. But if you got value from this report, tap subscribe. It's time for my final thought. They left the edit menu open. Think about that. The most important surveillance footage in modern history, and they couldn't even close their editing software before releasing it. 1 minute missing. From 11:58 to midnight exactly. But it gets worse. Former Israeli intelligence confirms Epstein ran a Mossad honeypot. His handler, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was also Mossad. This wasn't just blackmail, it was state-sponsored intelligence gathering on American soil. So yes, the client list exists, the videos exist, but they're not in FBI custody? Well, where are they? Perhaps they're in Tel Aviv. And that's why there's no arrests. That's why Maxwell trafficked kids to nobody. That's why they're desperately editing footage and hoping that nobody will notice. But of course, we noticed. We always notice. So here's my question. Do you believe that Epstein did what he did to himself? Or was he silenced to protect the network? Answer below. And if you want to show that you are awake and not woke, head over to shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, trigger a liberal with our Alligator Alcatraz or President Otto Pen shirt, and support the network, our network.